You know what that sounds means? It's time for the 5-minute fix. It's Monday, August 15th, and over the weekend, I had wanted to play this for you on Alex Garrett Podcasting. The Michael Smerconish conversation with one of the historians that actually talked to President Biden about the teetering democracy. And then I want to give you a reading from actually Isaiah 66, because I'm starting to read more with my dad, the readings from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, the weekly readings. And this one, admittedly from July 3rd, hit home, and you'll find out why at the end of this 5-minute fix. But first, I wanted to play you this from the Michael Smerconish show on CNN with a historian who met with President Biden to issue this warning.
Is American democracy teetering on the brink? That's what President Biden was warned about a week ago by a group of esteemed historians at a private meeting at the White House. The historians, one of whom is my next guest, compared the threat facing America to the era leading up to the Civil War and to the pro-fascist movements that preceded World War II. And that was before this week's raid on Mar-a-Lago, quote unquote, and its incendiary polarizing effects. There were death threats against the judge who issued the warrant, and online attacks on the entire FBI, plus a physical attack on the Cincinnati field office by an armed man who'd been at the Capitol on January 6th and who was fatally shot after a standoff. On Monday night, the phrase Civil War was trending on Twitter. One user on Trump's social media platform, Truth Social, said, F a civil war, give them a revolution. Joining me now to discuss is Sean Wilentz, who attended the meeting with President Biden. He's a professor of history at Princeton University. Professor, good to see you. You have said that when a nation loses faith in elections, democracy is dead. Are we there yet?
No, we're not there yet. But first of all, good morning, Michael. It's great to be here with you. Look, what we said to the president, I can't go into in any detail, right? But generally, as a historian, I think we're in a very, very difficult situation, to say the least. There really have been three periods I liken it to, or rather, there are three periods that stand out. One is, as you said before, the decade leading up to the Civil War. Secondly, the 1930s, during amidst the global economic collapse. And then a longer period, actually, it's culminated in what we have now, but it really goes back at least to the 90s and hit an inflection point, I think, around 2000. In which, now, what's common to all three are two things. First of all, it's global as well as domestic. All of these are situations where, the situation for democracy worldwide was in crisis. And it was in combination with that the events unfolded in the United States. But secondly, it has to do with legitimacy. That's the key to all of this, is when the basic institutions of the country are being called in, the legitimacy of those institutions is being called into serious question. That certainly happened before the Civil War. It led to secession when the slaveholders' rebellion, in which they said, look, we don't believe in your constitution is wrong, we have our own, goodbye. In the 1930s, when there were these fascist movements, but more than that, there were real attempts to take over the government, not just by, the German-American Bund or something, but there was a banker's plot. There were all kinds of things that were going on that were trying to unsettle American democracy. And then more recently, and which you see not only elections, as you said before, elections being called into question, January 6th, but then you go back to November 22nd, 2000, in which there were another mob tried to stop the counting of votes in Miami-Dade. It may have affected the election. All along, the basic institutions of government. Now we have even the FBI, law enforcement, is being called into question. Those are moments, I think, when democracy really is in trouble, and we're certainly at that one of those moments now.
So here's the thing. I think it's true that our institutions are being questioned every which way. I think the saddest one to me is at the Supreme Court, the beacon of hope, the bastion of justice has become more unhinged than ever. And I know my conservatives are like, what do you mean unhinged? Well, a little bit, right? So much so, and the FBI has always been in question. There are conspiracies about JFK. The FBI is one that's always been in question. But I appreciate Sean Wilentz on Michael Smerconish there. Our democracy is teetering a little bit. And I do take the charges of the unsealed warrant seriously when they say President Trump might be found guilty of espionage. And so, to end the 5-minute fix today, thanks for making that available, by the way, for all on YouTube, Mr. Michael Smerconish. But, to finish out the 5-minute fix today, I wanted to just read you this from Isaiah 66, 10-14. In reading these readings, by the way, from my church, Good Shepherd Lutheran Weehawken, there are some very poignant parts of these readings that stick out, and I feel like, you should hear about how in Isaiah 66, 10-14, it is written, "As a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you. You shall be comforted in Jerusalem. You shall see, and your heart shall rejoice. Your bodies shall flourish like the grass." Thanks be to God for, yes, it takes our part as well, but for Him to also help us flourish like the grass. And it shall be known to the land that it shall be known that the hand of the Lord is with His servants, and His indignation against His enemies. So our bodies can flourish like the grass because His hand, the hand of the Lord, is with us always. I'm Alex Garrett. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll be back this week with more great content on Alex Garrett Podcasting. Thanks be to God.